Doesn't this look like just a normal day at any Utah high school?
Yep. Kids are heading into class, teachers are inside waiting to teach their lessons, and everybody is probably looking forward to lunch.
It's nice to think that all school days are as normal as this, but unfortunately, they're not. There's a serious problem in our country that is happening with greater frequency. This isn't something that we want to talk about. This is something that we need to talk about. Something that we must take seriously.
If someone arrives at your school with a weapon, your day and your entire life will change in an instant. We know you're sitting there thinking, we live in the super safe state of Utah. Nothing like that can happen here. But you're wrong. It can.
We want to talk to you about how to prevent a horrific crime like this and what you can do to be prepared if something like this were to happen at your school.
So, sit down, stop talking, close your books, take off your headphones, put your phones away, and pay attention. The information we're about to share with you may save your life and the lives of your best friends and classmates.
Most of us know about the tragedy of Columbine. In 1999, 2 students planned and carried out an attack in the hallways, classrooms, and library at their high school. Using an assortment of firearms and homemade explosive devices, they killed 14 students and 1 teacher. 24 others were severely injured.
This tragic day started out just like any normal school day. Kids were going to class, teachers were waiting to teach, and everyone was probably looking forward to lunch until the unthinkable happened.
Jefferson County 911.
Yes, I am a teacher at Columbine High School. There is a student here with a gun. He has shot out a window. I believe one. I've been
Columbine High School.
I don't know what's in my shoulder. If it was just some raspberry or what.
Okay, has anybody been injured, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and the school is in a panic. And I'm in the library. I've got students down under the tables, kids. Heads under the table.
April 20th, 1999, I was a sophomore in high school, and I was 16 years old. I was in my Spanish class and getting ready to take a test. We heard some noises, so I hopped up and looked out the window. Then shortly after is when the chaos of the day started. My teacher left. He said, "I'll go check things out, stay here." Our teacher came back and brought in Mr. Sanders, who had been shot. We locked down the door. Everybody got alongside the wall where the door was so that if anybody came up, they wouldn't see us. The shooters did come to our room at one point, kind of jiggled the handle a little bit, and they shot through the door and threw a bomb in the closet next to us. It was the closet where they held all the chemicals for chemistry and that sort of thing. So it started a pretty good fire. We just sat and waited until the SWAT team came. We were all treated as suspects. They ran us down through the cafeteria, past some of my classmates. We saw them on the ground, dead, and then they took us off the school grounds. When my mom came in, she was so calm, and I was surprised by that. But it was good to have somebody to finally hold and to cry on her shoulder, and we were able to go home. Once we were there, we had family everywhere that were trying to get a hold of us, but my mom was really good. She let me talk to my sister, and that was the only person she would let me talk to.
You may think you're safe from something like the tragedy at Columbine High School because you live in a relatively safe community, but it would be a huge mistake to think that it can't happen to you.
Violence can occur anywhere. In fact, right here in Utah, we have had a number of close calls. We are not immune to incidents like Columbine. It's stupid to think that we are.
In 1998, when I was a school resource officer, we almost had that same thing happen here that happened in Columbine High School. In fact, that was about 8 months before the Columbine shootings. A person who was one of the students who was in the hallways just during, in between classes during the break, had overheard another student say that they had a gun. And this girl who heard that statement took it to heart. She thought very seriously about the potential consequences of a gun being at school. And her response to that was spot on. It was the right thing to do. She went and got a hold of a trusted adult. In this case, it was a hall monitor, who then in turn came to the school principal and to myself being the school resource officer at the time.
We were very fortunate here in Summit County that we got a tip from one of our high school administrators indicating that there was some troubling information that he had found in the locker of a student. That there were some of the students at the school that became very uncomfortable when this student was asking them if he could purchase firearms. That sent up some red flags in their mind, and thankfully it did. These kids immediately acted appropriately and went to their school administrators, told them about the fact that he was trying to procure a firearm, and that was a big piece of the puzzle for us.
We're going into a lockdown. This is not a drill. We're going into lockdown. This is not a drill.
I hope that none of you have to witness something this horrific in your real lives.
So do I. Most acts of school violence, like the one we just saw, are planned. Studies show that in about 80% of school shootings, someone knew about the shooter's plan, but did nothing to stop it from happening.
In order to prevent violence like this from occurring at your school, you've got to make a commitment to yourself and your family and friends that if you know something, you'll speak up.
Look around you right now. Look at your fellow classmates, your friends, and your teachers. Can you imagine them dying in front of you? Can you imagine the impact it will have on you, their families, and your community? You don't want to see that happen.
It isn't hard to be a hero in a situation like this. If you see something suspicious or receive a strange text message, you need to tell someone, even if you don't think it's a big deal. If you hear of a threat from any source, tell your parents, a counselor, the school resource officer, an administrator at your school, one of your teachers, or anyone you feel you can trust to prevent the violence from happening. It doesn't matter how small you think the threat is or where it comes from. You need to say something. If you think a friend or classmate wants to hurt others, or if you know about someone who is worried about being hurt, share your concerns with an adult you trust.
Law enforcement officers are prepared to protect you and your friends if violence occurs at your school, but they can't protect you if they don't know what you know. Some secrets, like a planned act of school violence, are not worth keeping. They can end up becoming a nightmare for you and everyone around you. Speak up. Be a hero. Help law enforcement protect your community.
911, what is the address of the emergency?
This is Harrisburg High School. We have a credible a text from a student that I trust that there's someone that's possibly bringing a bomb here to school today.
Unfortunately, kids throughout this country have been targeted in schools, disproportionately so to other locations. And it's a target-rich environment for somebody who wants to engage in a terrorist act. Is there a better target than a school? I don't know that there is one. If you're trying to engage in terror, I don't know that there's a better target. And because of that, all of us, both law enforcement, school district administrators, and then also kids that go there need to understand that we have to prepare for that terrible event that we hope and pray never comes.
I don't have the
We just saw what it might look like if someone enters your school with the intent to cause harm and violence. It's definitely not something you ever want to see in real life.
What you've seen was a simulation to help law enforcement and the school community respond effectively to an act of school violence, should it happen. And though it was only a simulation, it had a serious impact on those who participated.
Getting the wounds done and seeing everybody with the makeup, some of them were kind of a little graphic looking. They were kind of weird. Just to know that some people actually do get that injured in situations like that, it was just kind of eye-opening to see what happens to some of the people.
I didn't realize how scary it was actually going to be when I signed up. In the hostage room, the shooter was yelling at me, and it was really scary. We were pretty much being used as a human shield.
They set off smoke bombs, and so you couldn't see anything. The lights were off. Everything was dark. There were people, but you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And there's gunshots, but you don't know where the gunman is, and it's scary. You heard people screaming, and they got shot down, and then there was just you sitting there hiding, like praying that you wouldn't be heard.
Now I have more of a head on my shoulders of what law enforcement's going to do. My main goal is going to be to stay calm and stay out of their way and try to keep others to stay out of the way so they can do their job.
What we as a SWAT team do and what we train for is to protect the whole school, the students, the faculty, and anyone that works there inside that school. Probably 40 to 50 of us that are going to respond to your school, and it's very important that you follow your lockdown procedures.
If violence comes to your school, it is of the utmost importance to know and follow your lockdown procedures.
When you have a lockdown drill, pay attention, actively participate, and take it seriously. These drills will prepare you and help law enforcement protect you.
You guys know what's going on in your school a lot better than the principals or the teachers do. You hear things all day, every day. If something is brewing in your school and it doesn't sound good, then please tell someone. That will keep my team out of your school.
You know, to any student that might be reluctant to give information that they have to a school administrator or a police officer or sheriff's deputy, I would say this. Do you really want to live with the consequences potentially of what could happen? Every threat needs to be reported. And if you're a kid, you can't joke about threats at school. You can't joke about things that you might do to teachers or fellow classmates at the school or elsewhere. Don't be the missing link that could have averted a tragedy in retrospect. I think that would be a terrible thing to have to live with as a kid. Just give us the information that we need.
Remembering what you've learned from this video can save your life.
That's true. We hope you'll remember that violence can happen anywhere, including your own community.
Always report suspicious text messages, emails, social media posts, or threatening activities you see or hear to an adult you trust, like your parents, a teacher, a guidance counselor, your school resource officer, or one of your school administrators. Speaking up is always easier than dealing with the aftermath of violence.
Be a hero and help prevent situations like this from ever happening. If you know something, say something.
And finally, make sure you know and follow your school's lockdown procedures.
We hope you never have to experience something like this, but remember what you've learned. It could save a lot of lives, including your own.
As a survivor of a traumatic event, you know, I've always known that I would speak up when I could. There's so much that we can do just by speaking, and if there's something that you have been through or that you notice that you need to say, please don't hesitate to speak up and use those words and be a hero and be a help for somebody else.